What do you think of when you hear reconnaissance? Hollywood-style special ops to kidnap world leaders? Or maybe satellites that can see every blade of grass from space? In today's bloodiest and most technologically advanced war, reconnaissance has changed forever. It's now based on three main supports: electronic interceptions, the drones with cameras, and then the on-foot reconnaissance operatives, people taking on the wackiest missions. Today's story is all about them. A recon need brains, cold-bloodedness, and balls of steel. They absolutely need to have those. Then comes physical training and everything else. I completed all my best missions based more on grit than training. The main tasks for reconnaissance officers are divided into observation, raids and ambushes, and unit escort of reinforcement. Any of these tasks means the fighter may not make it back. As the book says, military intelligence is a type of ground tactical reconnaissance organized by commanders and staff to gather intelligence for successful planning and combat. You may be told, go and find out if there is a river there and if we can cross it. Then you gather as a group, walk over, check the banks, and define if a place to cross could be organized. But there are tasks where a scout's biggest asset is their patience. That's a real observation. For hours, sometimes even days, you sit still on the front lines, becoming nothing but eyes and ears. In the silence, warriors must catch the slightest rustle or movement. Go sit on the tree line and see what's going on there, because drones can't hear as a real person can. And then you realize there's some movement over there. Even if you can't see it, you somehow feel it. Then you spot it, report it with the drone, and they check it out further with the drone. Situation: we were surrounded. We had a secret hideout. The enemy found out we were there, burned our hideout, but a bit of it survived. We sneaked back in. I camouflaged it to look burnt, so they wouldn't notice us from a distance. And so we stayed there for 2 weeks, right under the drone flight path. So we found a bunch of weapons and wiped out their assault groups. And sometimes I saw such idiots there, it blew my mind how they handled themselves. We were somewhere about 1.2 kilometers away from the enemies. I've got 20x zoom optics, everything was crystal clear. Honestly, unless they were drunk, I can't explain how they behaved. They have some kind of alcoholic energy cocktail as our Revo. All the trenches are littered with empty cans of it there. Yeah, sometimes you run into some serious guys among them. You can immediately detect them by their gear and how they act. They don't run around like a bunch of fools. They move precisely, their actions are well practiced. The Russian army doesn't risk those kind of people. So if a hard firefight starts, they just calmly back off. They don't fight to the end. After preparation, it's time for active operations. Raids and ambushes are the classics of sabotage work, where everything is decided in seconds. By the ground, recon troops law. Once the shooting begins, reconnaissance ends. A raid isn't an assault. An assault is when you rush in, wipe everyone out, and secure the place. A raid is a mission with a clear task. For instance, you find out the Russian colonel is there. You swoop in, take everyone down, take the colonel and leave. You need to seize some documents, for example, or take a walkie-talkie. So the purpose of an ambush, in fact, is the same as a raid, to capture something, but it's done using different methods. So you quietly settle somewhere along the path, and everywhere, on all rotations, we always seized radios. Then it stayed at our command observation post and we listened to what they were chatting about. How did you hear me? If there is no result, then you crawl to a proper shelter there. It is 200 meters. I'll tell you an interesting story. Once we captured a Ukrainian recruitment officer. We thought he was helping the enemy, but it turned out that he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. There was one motorcyclist who was looking for the location of our equipment, and this guy came there to pick up his belongings. He was on vacation and drove where he shouldn't have been. We pinpointed him and immediately mobilized the group. We came in and literally 30 seconds later he was already tied up in the car. As it turned out, it was his homeland, and the Shahed drone hit his house. He came there to sell things, sold a tractor, and took what survived. He had just come there for a couple of days and got busted. Being a food guide isn't about beautiful hikes deep into enemy territory. Most often it's routine but deadly dangerous work for a scout. We went to escort the engineering group to the gray zone so they could put mines and set up engineering barriers there. The first morning everything went great. There was a very thick fog. We did everything there. On the second day, I had this gut feeling, that something wasn't right. I was sitting there with a rifle. I was on the mountain, controlling the long-range approaches, and my comrade with an assault rifle below was covering the engineers. I had a bad premonition. I said, "Guys, I have a bad feeling. We need to go." They said, "Hold on, 5 more minutes." I said, "Well, let's do it quickly then." And then I heard, "Guys, mines are here. Go around on the left. Go around on the left." And right there in the field, we ran into them. Then were 18 of those bastards coming to storm us. Shit. Well, we quickly fell back to the infantry positions, and from there, from the trenches, we took them out with the guys from the infantry. It was, of course, brutal. Literally all of that look, time-wise, well, about 10 minutes. I could talk about it for hours. We destroyed the enemy then. They were very pissed at us. We had to sit in the dugouts all day because they were firing everything they had at us. The Grad MLRS rockets, tanks, artillery, and even then, I think it was the first time we were fired with the Pion cannon. RECON leads those on whom the stability of the entire front depends. We're talking about sappers who lay mines on the roads and infantry that literally needs to be led by the hand to their positions on the fire. Here the scout becomes their lifeline between life and death. Every time I've encountered this, those who never worked with recons are like, "What's the point of intelligence?" And then their opinion changes. For instance, there were guys from our battalion who were panicking. And they're like, "We're sent on our next rotation." And they're panicking, afraid to go. I tell them, "Guys, calm down. The main thing is don't hesitate to shoot, and I'll be right behind you if anything happens." And the guys collected themselves and went without doubts. Everything was okay. So there was even a role to be the support of the infantry. When the guys first came in, it was their first time there, and those guys were just scared to death in the dugout. But the third day, an infantryman wakes up, our recon llama, and says, "Let's go kick some enemy ass." Recon's presence in just those 3 days lifted their spirits so much that from scared guys they turned into fierce warriors. Put the kettle on, we'll be right there right now. The infantry is ready to fight. Beyond the official rules, personal experience plays a huge role in war. During missions, every scout picks out their own habits and tried and true rules. Little things in behavior or in their approach to camouflage, which might seem odd to civilians, become basic survival laws on the front line. First off, from training ground time, I don't use automatic fire. I mean, in rare cases, I've fired in such a way 2 or 3 times. No one will bring you more ammo and you have no one to rely on. It's not overall scout traditions. Everyone still has their own tricks. For many, like for me, I never go back. Never. If I forgot something, I'm not going back. Like, going back is a bad omen, never go back. And I've noticed that a lot of people have this quirk, camouflage. The guys and I used to joke, the best camouflage is no camouflage. I mean, regular multicam works really well. Basically, if it's fall, you really don't care what you're wearing, because you'll be covered in mud. Like, really, once I made myself a super-duper thermal cloak out of a sleeping bag. I just took it, made sure it wasn't clinching to my body, and put it over my backpack. Then I cut a hole with a knife, tightened the drawstring, and drones didn't see us. So we walked through the field unnoticed. Understanding all this is really helpful. All those ghillie suits, the kikimuras, in such a tight point you'll see the same way, but with those branches, you'll cling to the real branches. Movement is a primary unmasking factor. To see a person, if you have good eyesight, you can see a person from a maximum of 700 meters. That's if they're in contrasting clothes. So in camouflage, if a person stands still, not moving, you won't see them for a 500 or 600 meters. But as soon as they start running, you'll notice them immediately. So movements have to be smooth all the time. That's another trick, by the way. Smooth and calm movements. The Ukrainian units welcome scouts and we're always happy to see new faces. Oh, even if you're not sure whether it's worth doing, it definitely is. It's better to try and fail than to regret not trying. Many people prefer reconnaissance because you don't have to stay in one spot constantly. You finish your task and then you can relax. That's the main advantage. Ground recon troops are people who see this war through the sights of their own assault rifle. Modern reconnaissance wouldn't be possible without those who control the skies and monitor the airwaves. They truly become the eyes and ears for the entire unit. To see those who search for the enemy by air and through radio, Watch the next episode. Subscribe so you don't miss it.